Hello everyone, I'm bringing you a video today looking at a relatively recently arrived item. We looked at this in brief in the tail end of the video looking at Victory Show, which I uploaded earlier in the month. And this is a locally made pouch for carrying 3 submachine gun magazines. So this could carry Sten gun magazines or more likely Owen magazines. The Owen took over from the Sten for use out in Malaya due to it basically being a more reliable weapon. There are also some advantages from the top loading magazine, which not only assists in the reliability, obviously the gravity is helping with the feed from the magazine, but also it's quite convenient not having it stick out the side of the weapon when maneuvering through the jungle as well. So there is that too, that advantage as well. So what we're looking at here is a canvas magazine pouch, which is locally made. I believe my friend Alan, who I bought this from, has an example which actually has a Hong Kong maker's mark on the back. So I believe this is very probably made by the same company, the same tailors basically. And we're going to have a look at this in some detail now. So here it is, the 3-pocket submachine gun or machine carbine ammunition pouch. This would in theory take Sten gun magazines or indeed Owen magazines. Owen magazines probably the more likely by the time this sort of pouch was being used in greater numbers in Malaya. And it was very nice to, well, it was great to be able to purchase this from my friend Alan. And it was great to have this at the event Victory Show recently, which you'll have seen a video of. I had this on my belt kit with the kit of a section leader, section commander in Malaya in the early 1950s. And it really adds something having one of these locally produced pouches added onto the sort of standard issue equipment. They were fairly common. They do turn up in photographs quite a lot, and they were certainly made on a fairly large scale. And that would continue in the 1960s to some degree. And then of course you see these sort of the specialist SAS drop pouches and things that appear in the early 1970s, basically off the back of local unit procurement, of the very late 60s, early 1970s, basically all off the back of local unit procurement and equipment like this, a kit like this, pouches like this being manufactured out in the Far East for the ongoing conflicts out there, which the British forces were involved in. So from that point of view, it's quite interesting. This particular example, I think, is very similar to one in Alan's collection, which was made in Hong Kong. It actually has, I believe, a Hong Kong maker's mark on the back. We may have a look at that at some point in the future. The inference being that this was also manufactured in Hong Kong, and it's very possible there were lots of tailor shops there who made all sorts of bits and pieces, and certainly they made other pouches. There are other pouches out there which have Hong Kong makers' marks on them. So that does make sense. As you can see, in terms of overall design, we have 3 pockets across the front here. This is made of a relatively fairly sturdy canvas, a similar sort of weight to British Army kit bag canvas, I guess you could say. It's heavier weight than tent canvas. It's slightly heavier weight than tent canvas, I would say, more like sort of kit bag canvas. Each of these pockets does have drainage eyelets in the bottom, which is not something you could see in the video when I was wearing this. So I had this on my belt kit. You can see we do have eyelets in each of these. See that there? So a bit of thought gone into that. The closure is one flap that covers all 3 pockets, as you can see, and there are 2 quick release fasteners to keep this secure. And this one on the left in particular is quite tight. The loop that fits over this loop is a little bit tight on it. These are just made of a heavy gauge copper wire, so they are also sort of homemade. Rather than being fittings from other web equipment stitched on or something from stock stitched on. It's all made as part of the pouch, and obviously the quick release tabs are made of the same canvas as the rest of the pouch, as you can see. No real stiffening in them, so they are a little bit difficult to manipulate, or certainly difficult to close once you've opened this. So I'd imagine once this were going into action, you'd open this up, reload, and then it would stay open until you'd used up all the magazines. Underneath you can see a little bit of just slightly darker green there, so this has faded slightly, but you can see the original colour there. A little bit of stiffening to the sides by having a double layer of canvas there and there, as you can see, and you can see the details of the construction, how this sort of box shape has been produced with the stitching along the edges here to pucker that up and pull this into a square form that fits over the pockets. And you can see just the pouches in there, each of the pockets stitched on. You can see the rows of stitching down there. Alan had to do some repair work to this, but has done a very nice job. So thank you to Alan for doing that, obviously, before sort of preserving it before passing it on to me. And the top edge is obviously doubled over and stitched down neatly
the manufacturing of this is really quite nice. The quality is really quite good. It's not just been knocked up. It's rough and ready, but it's very functional in that regard. As you can see, the loop there is actually bent round so that it doesn't rock up and down in here. It's actually bent round, and then you've got metal here and here coming off it to stop it from rocking back and forth, just being loose and floppy from where it's been stitched on with the piece of canvas there. And then looking to the back, you can see we do have a name written on here, M.S. Craggs, it would appear. And I think Alan replaced the belt loops, if I remember correctly. So you can see these are a slightly different colour of canvas been stitched on there, but using the same sort of black stitching, the black thread as you see elsewhere. So you have the two belt loops there, which I believe are positioned where they would have been originally. Obviously, because of where they're positioned, this does sit down slightly on the belt, which would become common later on, of course, for use by men who were using the Bergen rucksack. Obviously, having the pouches slung low off the belt clears up the hips for the frame of the Bergen rucksack, and that will become a popular element of later designs of pouch. In this instance, I believe it's just incidental. Obviously, slightly lower centre of gravity, it means it hangs perhaps more comfortably below the belt, just having that little bit, sort of 1.5 inches up here where it hangs down underneath the belt. So quite a simple design, but as I say, there's a few elements to this which show some thought did go into it, not least the drainage eyelets at the bottom. The quick release design is obviously fairly typical of British web equipment at the time, so it's been carried across from that. And just a nice example, one of the examples of the pouches which were seen at the time. Sometimes you see these open topped. You see them for M1 carbine magazines as well, quite commonly. And I say this is just a particularly nice example, the 3 pockets and the single flap covering them there with the quick release tabs. There were various other patterns, as I say, around at the time. Perhaps we'll have a look at some of those in the future as well. But this is a very nice recent addition to the collection. I'm very, very happy to have this, and no doubt it will show up in future videos. It already has shown up in a video showing a recreation of the kit of a section commander in Malaya in the early 1950s. No doubt it will show up when I cover that sort of topic again in the future. But there we are, a quick look at this sort of locally procured, locally made ammunition pouch.
So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. I was really pleased to add this to the collection, and a big thank you again to Alan, obviously who I bought this from. Thank you very much once again, Alan. In terms of Malayan kit, it's very nice to have one of these. They were quite commonly used. There's certainly plenty of photographs out there showing pouches like this and similar to it. So it's a useful thing to have in terms of putting on displays and so forth, and a very interesting thing to have in terms of kit development, and obviously the history of the campaign and so forth that was going on at the time. So once again, thank you very much, Alan. I hope you've all enjoyed looking at this in some detail. If you have and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as I always say, a huge thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those 2 methods. It really is greatly appreciated, and I want to say a big thank you to all of you. Thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address in the description as well. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.